Wow, wow, chicka chicka wow, 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 wow. Hi, everybody. It's Anytime with Ken and Alden. That's Alden. I'm Ken. Happy 4th of July.
Good stuff, buddy. Good. It's awesome. I'm glad that this many episodes into the show, you're like, let me try something. Let me riff. You know, we love ideas here.
You know, I get contained. That's why I was an improver. I get contained by structure. I feel like I don't sleep with weighted blankets, Alden. I get
No, but I've heard that they're really good, and I've been saying I'll try one, and I haven't yet. But people swear by them.
I have one on my bed right now. You're welcome to come by and try.
Oh, give it
pop
a little,
in there.
Little squeeze.
It was left over from the previous regime, and
regime, at
yeah.
least administration, more diplomatic than regime. No, we're here, y'all. JMB's here, Captain Jedi's here, David Mackay, Addie, Michael, Laserbolt, Eli, Osvendik. Don't you guys have friends? What are y'all doing here? Shouldn't you be barbecuing? Like, every single one of you is here. Yeah,
they're friends. Yeah, I don't know if David Mackay is out there in Game of Thrones land celebrating our independence.
That's true.
He doesn't regret our independence.
Right. Could we celebrate the Independence Day from the motion picture Independence Day?
Yeah, we're talking. Addie has a question about that. I'd love a video of David Mackay with his beautiful Irish face just stuffing American hot dogs in it.
I would like that.
We're starting off in a weird way, and I like it because I think we need it, Alden. I think we need to be. We're gonna be serious. We might be angry. We're gonna talk about things. It's a big, beautiful bullshit day, but also I do think joy and silliness is part of the revolution.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. We're gonna be talking about, of course, the worst piece of modern American legislation. I say modern. I don't know what defines modern, but I will say I'm gonna be 30 this year. Definitely the worst in the last 30 years. I can tell you that. You could maybe make an argument for the Patriot Act, just like societally, but it's this, I think, and we'll talk about it. There are other things on the agenda that I want to get to. We will be doing an episode of Movie Talk inside of this episode where we review 1992's The Last of the Mohicans. Not really. We're not going to review it, but
you know what I watched last night?
The Last of the Mohicans.
Yeah. After I made you rewatch it, I watched it myself.
Ken and I talked pretty much every day this week, and like four of those conversation threads were about Last of the Mohicans in different capacities. It started with you being like, "Hey, do you remember Last of the Mohicans? What do you guys think about that?" And like, what do you young bucks think of that?
What do you youngsters?
Then I was like, I was just thinking about that. That's good. I should rewatch it. Then I did. Then I texted you about it. Then you were like, I'm listening to the soundtrack. And then we talked about the soundtrack. And then we just kept revisiting this movie because it still delivers this many years later.
It's 1757. The American colonies. Yeah. The colonies.
It's 3 years to the war. Like, it's amazing. Everybody has, as the kids say, aura. Every time Daniel Day-Lewis runs in that movie, it's the best run you've ever seen.
Well, because he probably, I know because of that movie, he trained to be like an actual rifleman, and he was like the third fastest reloader of 1757 rifles in the world. True story. Like he went off to live in the wilderness, came back as Hawkeye, and everything about it. But I love that movie. That was it is one of my all-time favorite movies. Haven't seen it in like 15 years, but I used to watch it 5 times a year, so it was great last night. So we're going to talk about that at the end, and also that kind of ties a little bit into Addie had a super chat question already. We'll just prop it here before we get to other stuff. Serious Q says Addie, and thank you for the generous super chat, Addie. How did we lose the art of the good campy movie? Why don't we make fun movies like Independence Day anymore? So I wouldn't call Last Mohicans a fun campy movie, but there's also something to be said about. That's kind of this big, sweeping epic. And that was just kind of one of many in 1992. Though the film industry was changing, you were pointing out Reservoir Dogs same year. That was kind of sending things into a different category. But we'll talk about that.
Yeah. Reservoir Dogs I rewatched last night in honor of the now late Michael Madsen, who passed. Obviously a mainstay of Tarantino films, but also did other work and things like Sin City. He was a voice in Chronicles of Narnia. If you didn't know that, you do now.
The Chronicles what?
Of Narnia, Ken. That's a fantasy film. I know. Okay. I know this is Ken doesn't watch fantasy knapsack, except for all the fantasy you do like. This is
I've read the books. I've watched the.
That's interesting. That's an interesting point. Yeah, I was
making a Lazy Sunday reference. Let's get that straight. I grew up on the books because of Jesus.
Okay. I was about to say, okay, so I didn't catch your reference. So you can explain
Chronicles
that.
What?
But then the thing that I realized while saying it is like, well, actually, that's probably the one thing that you could have as a Jesus loving child, because people in the Christian community understood, that was for them, and it was.
Oh, it was, and I like it, and I do, generally speaking, enjoy the works and even some of the musings of C.S. Lewis. I'll stop there. I don't even need to go further with it. But I grew up on those books, and it was put aside your He-Mans. It's time to read about Aslan.
Yeah, no, and has canon Santa Claus. It has biblical myth and its own Genesis and its own end times and
its own Turkish delight.
Yeah, and it's getting remade. Shout out Greta Gerwig, moving on from Barbie to Narnia.
I think I'm okay with that. We're truly Anytime movies today. I'm okay with that. I've just rewatched Barbie for about the 5th time. Adore that movie. Still moves me. Let's do it, because I don't think the other ones that came out I enjoyed. I saw the first couple in theaters. But I still don't think it nailed it. And I think you could nail it.
She's about to do, I think, a version that is definitely very her, in the same way that her Barbie is very her. We don't know a lot about it. Some of the casting has gotten out and in the trades, and it's not I feel like it might piss off some of the Christians that hold on to Narnia, in the sense that the rumor is that Meryl Streep is going to be Aslan, which is I don't know how they're going to feel about their God stand-in being voiced by a woman. So we'll see how that goes. But it's also Meryl Streep. So how can you be upset about it?
Yeah. Oh, that'd be great. I'm already on board. But Svetnik says it's going to be a show. Is it going to be a show or a movie?
It's going to be multiple Netflix movies, and we're praying that they put a theatrical release in there.
Yeah, come on now. Put it in theaters. Yeah. All right, we'll come back to movies if you want. And go where you want to go. The Big Beautiful Bill, the whole debacle of that this week. There's so much to talk about, and I don't know which angle you're going to take on it either. Other than we're on the same. It's just a horrible week.
Rage,
and also I'm trying to get to the root of the problem, which is sometimes what I do, and it's how I deal with some of the stuff. But anyways.
Yeah. When you said I don't know what angle you're going to take on it, the first line that popped into my head was Alan Tudyk as Wash in Serenity, when he's like, oh God, we're all going to die. That's his status report. It's we can get right into it. I mean, it's one of those things where we felt sort of not horror in a shocked way, not oh God, how could this have happened? It was more like the slow creep. This week of watching the progress of this felt like being in a house with Michael Myers. But you're in the attic and he's on the first floor. So he has to walk a little. But he will get up there. There is not you are not stopping him and you're not getting out. So that's how it felt. There are frustrating things to note along the way, moments that it felt like maybe hope could have squeaked out. For context, just so people remember, this ultimately gets done by 2 votes. The amount of Democrats that died in office this year, 3. So it's there are things like that are in the background of it, where it's wow, if only we weren't so what we always are, old and complacent, then maybe we would have had something here. So that's frustrating. But it's not a shock, but it's just it's the callousness. It was the applause along the way, the USA chants, the prayer circle, before the vote, the glee, the laughter. It's an outright abuse. It happens at the same time as I hate calling it alligator Alcatraz, but I guess like Mandoverse, that's going to be a term that I just have to accept in my life.
I mean, they got the branding, they got the T-shirts.
That's what, again, I'm not joking when I say the party is way better at branding than the Dems have ever been. So they have alligator Alcatraz taking money, taking your taxpayer money, taking it out of the FEMA budget, taking it, away from people that need it. The state that can't help anybody, and the federal government that can't help anybody after a storm gets that done in like 8 days. So all of it was a storm of just being relentlessly smacked down. Now, what is it like? Liberal estimate is like 17 million people will be kicked off healthcare. Yeah. So I got nothing for you, big picture wise, except rage and sadness.
I got nothing. Yeah, no.
How about you?
Yeah, no. Well said. Well well summarized. And when I say I don't have an angle on it, it's like I'm with you. There just seemed this was a foregone conclusion. You can look at that in many different ways. I love your point there of 3 deaths in office and all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of places to put the rage, and I'm all for throwing some darts at feckless Democrats and all that kind of stuff. And should we have also been out protesting in the streets for this one, like the Frenchies? Yeah, that was all that stuff. But my rage, and maybe it's not the best way to solve it, but I've been doing this week on the blathering. I'm going to do it here. Although I'm going to transfer a segment over here, and it's called "Fuck You, Lisa Murkowski." That's the segment.
Love it.
Because
we need a jingle. Someone write a jingle.
Fuck you, Lisa Murkowski. This is her legacy into past and beyond death. This will be on her tombstone. And there, like I said, everything you're saying, there's all these other factors going back, hell, to the 1860s that leads us to here, right? Yeah. And there's other things I want to talk about. But when it actually comes down to it, you who stood up there with your face could have stopped this. Yep. You didn't. And then you went, and if that was it, that'd be still shitty. But then you went on and we're, in interviews going, I don't like it. I don't like it. So fuck you. Fuck you. You will. That is a noose around you for the rest of your life. The rest of your life. Because then pumpkin face Vance gets the vote, all that stuff, Yeah.
Yeah. And that was just like salt in the wound was the fact that it got the tie break on Vance is just that occurred to me like shortly beforehand. I think it was like the night before where I was like,
it's gonna go. Yeah.
VP tie break. Like that was like that was the last straw of me being disgusted. Was thinking that could happen.
And there's something, not to be definitely not conspiratorial, but like it's why I get sometimes people's malaise or the uniparty and all that kind of stuff. It almost seems scripted, right? It almost seems scripted. And in some ways, maybe it is. All right. Let's get 3 no's, and then we'll tie, and then we'll have the ceremonial vote from Pumpkin Face. This will be great, and that's part of it too. But yeah, so there's a lot of places to put my rage, but I put it at the feet of Lisa Murkowski, and this will be on her tombstone, on her gravestone. Fucked America is going to be the final thing it says there.
The now already historic picture of her being hounded in the halls. Looking like she saw a ghost, like that deserves to be like that should be her obituary photo. Yeah, that should be the thing. Mentioned Vance. You should be very careful, by the way, of making fun of JD. You might get stopped at the border.
Absolutely.
Careful with that. Careful.
Absolutely.
You want to do comedy in Canada, don't you? You better be careful.
That's true. I want to get back in. Maybe I'll just be stuck in Vancouver for the rest of my life. Yeah, you're right.
Which maybe not so bad. Maybe not so bad.
At this rate. So that's one thing. And the other side of it, to put cards on the table and we can go anywhere we want to go to. And eventually we could just say, fuck this and talk about movies. You know me, Alden, I sometimes try to, calm down, center, and just try to focus on some part of this that I feel I can attack or not even change minds, but just kind of focus on what is actually a core issue for me. And behind all of this big, beautiful bill, the actually officially named, and at least Chuck Schumer got that changed. Didn't he get, we've got that changed. We changed it. We got them to change it. It's the comments from, God bless him. Hakeem Jeffries. Elliot of Internet Today, I think, posted when there was that picture of Jeffries in his office with the baseball bat. And Elliot, you guys should check out Internet Today. Ricky and Elliot are so great. Why does Hakeem Jeffries always look like he's got a face that says, "Why you make me do my job"? He's got that face. He gives his speech. Great. Got it. I'm not going to fault anyone for trying something, whether it's at the end or too late or not. But then that ends, and we know what exactly is going to happen. The Republicans get up there. Steve Scalise from Louisiana. Nice speech. This is still happening. Whatever, fuckface. Yeah, but Scalise says what I feel is on the surface level, what this is all about for all these voters, for these people, is where he's like that thing that kind of went viral of, Medicaid's going to be cut. And so sorry, the 35-year-olds playing video games in their basements are going to have to go get jobs. And that's a good thing because their mom doesn't want them to do that. That's, to me, the core issue, because when I have these conversations outside of our circles, family, friends, whatever, that's the kind of shit that comes up. That's why after the election in November, I was focusing on the grip of the Christianity's grip on our nation, of some folks I know. Well, you can't vote against God. You vote for the GOP. That's what you do for God. And that belief, the shoestrings, bootstraps, Reagan telling everyone that those unions got to get back to work. Those unions can't go on strike. All that shit is permeated all the other thoughts that they have, that these working class people have. So they're willing to fuck themselves because they truly think that a guy like me on Medicaid is just some loser in a basement playing video games, not working 12 hours a day, just not getting paid enough. And that, to me, that's where I don't know if I can change Alden, but where I'm going to focus some of my conversations about how do I get that changed. Much like I said last time out with Mamdani, actually putting down on paper what him, a communist democratic socialist, stands for. If you see it on paper, you might go, oh, that's what it is? Didn't know that. So that's also where my mind is. Cards on the table.
No, it's very well said on all accounts. And you mentioned Mamdani, and I'm glad you did, because part of the frustration, I think, with this is, again, we are not ever on this show playing the both sides game, just to paint the full picture. It is very frustrating that these establishment Dems had more effort and smoke for trying to smear Mamdani over the last 2 weeks than they did on trying to stop this, by a massive amount, by an absurd amount. Apologies had to be issued for their horseshit smears on this guy. Now the New York Times is like, he checked the African box when he applied for college. And it's like, yeah, he's from Uganda, you moron.
Right.
Like, yeah, he did. So it's like they have been trying to stop him. Swalwell lying blatantly, saying he said stuff he didn't say. Well, not even saying he said stuff he didn't say. Saying what he said about the Jews, and then nobody follows up. Nobody says, what are you referring to? Because it is a lie.
It's a lie.
Like, what are you referring to?
And excellent point. And we could probably spend a whole show on Hakeem Jeffries wasting energy on it. What really upset the core issue of that upsets me, Alden, is Hakeem Jeffries can speak for 7 hours and hold court saying truths about the big beautiful bill and how it will fuck all of us. He could say that. It's not effective, because the people that he's trying to reach aren't listening. But one comment about Mamdani is going to be 1,000% more effective, because people are looking for that.
Yep.
He just confirmed their fears,
And they are creating the environment that makes that work. Like Hakeem gets asked, like, oh, are you going to endorse Mamdani? And his whole thing is, I don't really know him that well, and our districts don't overlap. First of all, he won your district handedly, so I don't know what you're talking about. Secondly, what do you mean you don't know him? Aren't you guys the vote blue no matter who people? Wasn't that your whole thing? Or that's just when it's Joseph Robinette Biden. Got it. Yeah. That's when it's vote blue no matter. I understand. It's like, it's really nice to know that, like, we have so many senators from Tel Aviv. I'm just glad that that's very clear at this point. That just makes me, I'm glad that that's out there in the open. The big beautiful bill is going to decimate the country over the next 10 years of spending. We have a concentration camp in Florida. The Nazi and the rapist are still arguing with each other and everything. But that's all great. But as long as the great American city of Tel Aviv is happy, Awesome. I'm so glad.
I would love someone like Maxwell Frost or someone of that ilk who'd be like I'd like to address the honorable senator from Tel Aviv. I would just love that to happen.
I mean, Frost, we saw his comment this week.
Great
Florida
stuff.
legislator, where he said
stuff.
that he outright said, which I agree with, which is like, you guys are pro-life, but you want them to you want them to be born and go get shot in school. You want them to end up in crime on the streets. You want this. They were guffawing, scoffing.
You will not besmirch us. I think the word besmirched was used.
You will not impugn. You will not impugn our integrity. And I responded to Frost with the clip from Game of Thrones season 2.
Yeah.
When Janos Slint is like, I will not have my honor questioned by an imp. He's like, I am not questioning your honor, Lord Janos. I'm denying its existence. That's what it's like.
That should be the young Dem progressive, whatever you want to say. They probably still have to run as Dems, but unless Elon starts his party. But people should just clip out all of Tyrion's quotes, and that should be the playbook.
Honestly, Tyrion is what we need for progressive governance at this moment.
I'm glad you highlighted that.
So that was, I love Frost. AOC got out there, of course, as she always does. The people that need to be speaking, and you shared a great thread highlighting a lot of these voices, are still speaking. And it's like the bill, the trap is that thinking that the bill squashes and annihilates all hope. And it doesn't. It makes things a hell of a lot harder. And much like in Trump 1 and during Biden, I'm not going to like act like things weren't still bad, but like we're going to lose people along the way. And that's why we call it class war. And, and that's why we call it, with ICE now being more funded than any American organization.
They're the top earners.
And top earning law enforcement by a lot. They have the ICE budget is currently more than the military budget for like a lot of the world powers. It's like really insane. They became a private army, and they are, gonna do Gestapo things because they are the Gestapo. And like it's. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. No. Sorry, Katja. I forgot my phone, and I can't get text on this computer. You know the horrible feeling where you're like, I'm disconnected from my life. But Ken Plume sent me a thread. I was going to highlight. It is from like a Reddit thread that's like, it's like something like progressive optimism or something where it's like, hey, in the cloud is dark. Here's some things to focus on. And it was a great post about, all the stuff with ICE is horrible already, and it potentially could get worse. But it kind of ran through the reasons, like, don't automatically assume this is going to continue to be successful or that it isn't kind of crumbling. And it kind of runs through all the things, the local city ordinances and this and that, the actual difficulty they're going to have in recruiting 10,000 people, all those kind of things. None of it like fact, but things to like, hey, also focus on this. Because I think you said something that I really like, where this is not the end. It will be the end. It will lead to deaths. Let's acknowledge that truth. But the fight can continue, not just that we want it to continue. It can continue.
Yeah, the Democratic Party didn't stop existing. I mean, maybe some of them feel that way. John Fetterman feels that way. Fetterman's whole thing in the news this week was, I'm trying to go on vacation. Why am I here?
Okay. Alden, he's not. We gotta stop this guy. He's not well. Right? He's not well. I don't mean to be even mean. This is someone I followed him on Twitter, right? Yeah. I refused to buy crudité for a long time, even though I like it at parties. I supported this hoodie wearing gentleman. Yep. He's not well. What the hell?
Fetterman is such an interesting case study where it's like he makes me regret not just supporting him politically, but he makes me regret supporting him as a human. Because when he checked into the hospital for clinical depression, I was like, this is brave. It matters that a big, bald guy with a goatee who looks really tough is talking about this issue. Now he's giving depressed people a bad name. He's giving depressed people a bad name. All the stereotypes of how us people with depression don't want to work and don't want to do anything. But you're not supposed to go out there saying that stuff.
Right.
You're not helping us. So that frustrates me. But then like the pre and post stroke John Fetterman is like two different guys. Like
100%.
I need like stroke experts, like actual medical experts, to tell me like what happened. Like I'm partially joking, but like it's you could time it exactly to that incident. It's freaky.
Yeah, no, yes, no, yeah, and it's like, I know we're on a podcast and we try to be entertaining, or at least try to have some energy and momentum behind our broadcasting. So I don't mean to be mean. You know, it comes off of it maybe sometimes, but I'm with you on what you're saying. Like it's a switch, it's clear, and you know, if Jake Tapper's going to write a book on Biden, maybe the sequel's about this. It's just it's really bizarre, but it's also, he's still got this power, right? He's still got power, and he's saying things you're entitled to in your opinion. And I'm not saying that every Dem can't have a thought outside of the straight line, but it's permission structure to have other people go, yeah, like he's right, and I think that's dangerous for what's going on.
And to connect it to the overall conversation about Hakeem and Mamdani and where we stand going forward with this bill, it's like, what Mamdani, we talked about it when he won, what Mamdani's victory proves nationwide and why it matters outside of New York and why it's such an important moment politically is that it proves that you can stop these people. So it's like, if there's a Mamdani, that can primary Fetterman, now's the time. If there's a Mamdani that can primary Schumer, Brad Lander, it should be you, Lander. Now's the time. Like we can force them out, and like that has to be the path forward. Is like, I think sometimes we get stuck on, we being the whole apparatus of opposition. I include everybody. Like we get stuck with like these cards, and we're like, if we have to stop Trump, we can play this card, I guess, and
skip,
we can
reverse, draw two.
Yeah. And it's like, if you don't like these, if none of them are good, change these. You have to change what you fight with. Like that's ultimately but I think we're realizing.
I agree with you now more than ever. Not that I ever disagreed with you, but like it is scary to step outside the lines. It is scary to look at a new playbook, and we've been living in something. The last 100 years have been things kind of normal. That's you dig into histories, blah blah. But you know what I mean. Like that's why a lot of the Reagan era Republicans that I grew up with, and it all was normal back then. We had good guys, us, bad guys, them. Springsteen was on our side, right? Like all that shit. And all this has changed, and you and others of a new generation, not just by age, but a new generation by thinking. I'm so encouraged. That's why I did that thread of those moving forward and the way they speak. It's not even just the cards they're playing; it's the way they deliver them that's important to me too. I absolutely love Kat Abu-Ghazaleh's videos. I absolutely love the social clips that Mamdani's team is putting out because they're so clear and to the point and well spoken and of a new way. They're of a new way. That's exciting for me. Maxwell Frost sitting there in an official capacity saying the truth.
Yeah.
And there's other people that have done. Jasmine Crockett too is and
then saying, "I meant every word." Like you could strike them from the record if you want, whatever you want to do. Because again, we're stuck in the old world, like you're saying, and it's like those procedural things of like the gentlewoman has 2 minutes. We're gonna strike that from the record. Well, all right, you can strike it from the record. We all know what was said. Like we're beyond that now. This is no longer the European parliamentary systems that we've built upon and transferred over and made into this bicameral machine and all this stuff. Like we acknowledge that there is no rule book, and the people that are driving things like this disastrous, gluttonous bill don't play by it. They don't. Like the president of the United States is a rogue actor with absolutely zero loyalty, who is a criminal, a convicted criminal, who's
act like that's not just something you'll say on a sketch show. Like
speculation. It's not like, oh, the guy that hosts The Apprentice is kind of scummy. He's probably a scumbag. Like, no, he's an adjudicated rapist.
Yeah.
He's an adjudicated fraud. Like his whole family is. They've defrauded everyone from college students to kids with cancer to schools, like to their business partners, to black renters back in the 70s. Like they're scumbags. They're outright scumbags. And if they don't play by the rules, it's not a matter of them be scumbags. You know, you're not condemned to use the tools of your enemy to defeat them. But you do need to get a little nasty sometimes. And I think that's what Frost and Mamdani, like Mamdani just dog walking Cuomo was like the moment of his campaign to his face was a change, because it's like, if you have righteousness and if you're standing for the right things and defending yourself and your integrity and the integrity of your constituents, like, or even in moments that weren't as aggressive, like will you visit Israel? Will you visit Israel? And he's just very clearly was like, I'll protect the New Yorkers here in New York. My Jewish constituents is who I'm concerned about. Like, boom. Like, I don't need to play this game. We don't need to. And I think part of it is that we are the Obama era kids and teens that saw Obama jump through every hoop for them and get nothing for it. Like, he had to be twice as exceptional as a Black American. And like, that's definitely true. But like, as I said it before on the show, like, I wish that he had dropped the hammer in the way that they kept threatening that he would, you know, I wish that he had rolled up his sleeves and really went after Donald Trump during the birther bullshit. Cause that kind of birthed where we're at now. Right. And he chose to take the high road, and that's fine. It's his family, it's his right. And it's his family. But ultimately what we've seen is that era made good on almost none of the promises. He got gay marriage through, which I will never take away from him. Obviously, that's huge. But like, they never did anything with gun control. They never codified Roe. The ACA was always a complicated beast that we're obviously still dealing with. And like, there was never like the things of like, wow, this change maker, this guy, he's more of a king maker now that just kind of shows up and throws his opinion in every once in a while. And I think that it shares a playlist, tells us that he watched Sinners, you know, which, like, cool, Barry. I'm glad.
It's all good. It's all good.
Yeah, like, whatever, man. Whatever. Cool. Yeah. You know, if Arsenio was still on, I'm sure he'd be on Arsenio. Like, we've done this before. But like, ultimately, the generation that came up under him is like, why did he just take all this? Why did he just do it this way? Why? And we're finally seeing the response to that, I think.
That's an excellent point. I think you're saying it, as always, well, of what you are talking about. Literally, the 10, the 12, the 15, the 16, the 17, the 18-year-olds in that era who see the posters of change and hope, and it was palpable, and it seemed, and I do think it was a gear shift. I do think it could have led to more, but on the other side, the reactions to the tan-suited black man definitely accelerated the next phase that begins with Trump walking down that escalator. But that had been in place, and I think you're so right to point it out. And I love hearing your perspective on that. As someone who was older, and even on the other side at that point, unfortunately. But see, and I was afraid of what was promised. You know, I have to. I wanted to cling to what I knew, the establishment and the Maverick John McCain, and then who's that from Alaska? But I was afraid of the Obama they threatened. You know what I mean? Yeah, my side threatened.
Which it was a successful marketing machine. You know, it was a successful,
one of the all-time best. Yeah,
painting him, his marketing, but also the anti, like a decade of Americans being like, well, he's going to take our guns, and then you'd say, when has he ever tried that? Because he didn't. You know, but that was the early post-fact, like, it was all there.
Oh, you know? My friend Alden, my friends in the security business who owned 3 AR-15s and 19 handguns and had ammo stockpiled, most of it left over from Y2K. Telling a 100% true story. One of my friends just had a garage full of weapons because of what he thought was coming. But yeah, we'd sit around the break room and they'd be like, dude, you know, Ken, you don't have a gun yet? You should get one because they're coming for them. They're going to take them. And it was a real fear. It was this crazy fear. And then, you know,
never once did the Obama administration even introduce anything for it. They never even did a PowerPoint.
Yeah.
Ever.
And so my takeaway from that was a early shift of the plates underneath my feet of, well, man, why did all my friends were really afraid about something that didn't happen? And then your takeaway of, yeah, that wasn't going to happen, but no other meaningful legislation regarding gun control emerged from that era is a great point that you're making about your generation who's living with the fear of those bullets in your back at school.
And well, very well said. And you know, and I know Obama does consider that to be the failure of his reign. He does say that. Like his one regret from being president is that he never got anyone to come to the table over gun control. And I'm glad he said it.
Glad he said it, because I think that's a byproduct of him being in what was considered, it might be considered the last of the quote normal times, right?
Yeah.
Where beers in the front yard solve problems.
But then even like, and even tonally, like, yes, like legally and in terms of effects, yes, but also the tone too is a lot of what I'm talking about. Like,
yes.
It's like,
no, you're
Obama,
right.
Like I wish that Obama had, and again, his family. I know he has daughters to worry about, like totally. But like when someone's going after you in such a racist way, could you imagine if Barack Obama during either of his terms had addressed and said outright, this is racism? Like how powerful it would have been for the president of the United States to have said something like, it affects me too. Like how powerful that would have been for younger people looking at him, for a young Mamdani or a young Maxwell Frost or whoever. But instead, we watched him high road them every single time, which has value. You know, this is something we talk about. We talk about this in Star Wars terms, you know, like we talk about it all the time of like the different strokes that it took to bring everyone together. Yeah, it's a lot of pew. It's like, you know, I think sometimes about who said it. I really hope it wasn't Bill Maher, because I don't want to give him any credit. But like there was that split second.
Every once in a while, look, he does say some good things.
There was a split second right after Trump won the first time where Bill Maher was like a refuge because he was the only person your parents' age that like seemed to get it on network television. Not network, but on premium
cable,
at that moment.
Premium cable,
And he might have been the one, but the quote was like Michelle Obama's like, when they go low, we go high, and then he was like, no, when they go low, kick them. Like, and it's like, I think finally we have a generation that is like, oh yeah, we should kick them because they do it to us.
Yeah. No, and I think again you're speaking very well from your point and your perspective of if Obama had said that about the racism, it would have reached the ears of the people that needed it most. Yeah. I do have a fear that it would have actually started the Civil War sequel right then.
Maybe.
Because because I worked with a bunch of racist folks who it was very internalized and very coded and very not present. You just think you're doing the normal things, and you look back now and you're like, oh yeah, I know what was driving your comments, friends. So it would have been interesting. But I think the most important thing would have the people, like you said, that needed to hear it would have heard it.
It was apparently Eric Holzer that said this. Thank you, Eli. Thank you, fact checker Eli. That's your new role.
Fact checker Eli.
So all that being said, getting into the bill itself, like we've touched on it a little bit, like, and just in case anyone tuned in and is like, you're not really talking about the bill, like, because it's like, well, there are infographics for the bill, like there's nothing to say about it except for the fact that it's horrible. Like it's the biggest tax breaks for the 1%. It's all these people off Medicare, Medicaid. It's the ICE increase. It's I don't know if this is part of the bill or if it's just something they're doing on the side, but they're holding upwards of $6 million in school money this week in like federal funding for schools, and for public schools, and public schools are having to cancel after school programs and roll things back, and like it's every category of life this week took a hit.
Yeah, I highly recommend, and we got a comment I want to get to from Alan Smithy too about UCLA. We're going to talk movies here. We're going to have some fun, but I'm glad you circled back to the bill. One of the things that is working for me, it doesn't make you feel better. It doesn't bring hope. but is trying to understand it as best you can because there's a lot of unknowns, right? Is my medical going to be cut tomorrow? No, it turns out maybe after the midterms in 2026. Legion Miller, I highly recommend her channel if you all haven't watched that. I think I've sent some of her videos to you in the past. She put a video out before the bill passed. Like it came out, she even says in the video, by the time this reaches you, the bill will probably have passed. But she, for 22 minutes, goes through it all. She's a lawyer. She is a young millennial, I believe, early 30s range. Yeah. And she breaks it down, and that helps too. It also helps to give you an understanding and perhaps even talking points in conversations. You know, no tax on tips and overtime sure does sound great, and it might be great to some degree until you look at it, until you look how temporary it is, until you look at the cap. There's that great clip from AOC going out there. But I highly recommend that video and others like it. But check out Legion Miller's channel. She really does a good job breaking down. And knowledge, Alden, is some sort of power.
Mm-hmm. You know, they say knowing is half the battle.
G.I. Joe. Pork chop sandwiches. Okay.
Who is your favorite Joe? Just curious.
My favorite G.I. Joe character was Mainframe. Do you know who Mainframe is?
I do, actually, yeah.
The mid-40s computer tech who joined the army. And
some might say you're cosplaying Mainframe right now, as you said.
And he came with a portable computer, like an 80s portable computer. It was like big and had a handle and a disk drive and everything. And he was my favorite Joe because I had the figure.
I'm a stereotype, and my favorite is Snake Eyes because
Snake Eyes.
He's just so cool.
And look, did young Kenny have a thing for Lady J? Yeah, he did. Lady J
and Scarlet aren't the same person, right? Scarlet's a different character.
Excuse me, sir.
I like Scarlet.
Scarlet. No. Shannon O'Hara. No, that's Duke's problem. All right, Lady J and Flint were the love story of a time.
Duke's problem. Yeah, I know. Scarlet I liked. I had not yet discovered heel women, so I wasn't a Baroness.
Let's not bring that up if we don't want this show to get too thirsty, because Baroness affected my life.
After a certain age.
Did I ever tell you that? On that shelf behind the camera here, let's just say have several Baroness things.
Oh, that makes me so happy. It's the glasses, man. It's the glasses. Like, honestly,
Alden, it's the evilness.
It is. I was gonna what woke me up to the magic of evil in women was heel Lita. Remember when Lita was paired with Kane right before the Edge Lita run? Yes, heel Lita, I was just oh, why do I like her? Because up until that point, I was like, Padme Amidala, was the perfect woman. Drew Barrymore in Charlie's Angels.
Okay, sure.
Her Hermione, who I was the same age. She was in my age group, so like that was more like a classroom crush.
Okay,
but then, then something about Alita, I was just like, I like the redhead who keeps interfering in all the matches. Why?
It's the early 2000s, man. We were all living a Maxim magazine life. No, that stuff's real. For whoever you out there in our audience, whoever you are interested in pursuing, I do love tracking the early influences when you don't even know, because it's not even just about a sexual awakening in a physical sense. When I was watching Leia bark at Han on Empire, get to your transport. You've been cleared. Like, I didn't know that was what that's what I wanted. Beyond just attraction. Was for me. I love tracking early influences.
We got thirsty and Molly showed up. I've been summoned to the chat. Dark Willow is like for me. Dark Willow is huge. Huge. Y'all remember at the toward the end of the Dark Willow saga when she's doing Dark Willow shit in the store, and then Giles comes back and he's like, "Boom, blast! I'd like to test that theory." Cinema.
Sure. Yeah, I remember that.
Cinema, everybody. The Buffy cast in general, but again, I look at the Buffy cast and I was like, I love Faith, who's like Eliza Dushku's darker Slayer. Ken, she was the Slayer who was not supposed to be. I Dream of Jeannie is a great choice. Laserbolt, very classic.
Well, yeah, and I want to highlight Laserbolt is perhaps without aging him is perhaps always one of the older souls in chats when he's in, and I want to publicly give Laserbolt credit for always being in the forefront of new technology, always putting his face out there on the internet, always saying his truths. But also, I do love that in this conversation, Laserbolt's like, mine was Eleanor Roosevelt.
Yeah. Yeah, no, 100%. 100% is awesome.
Love you, Laserbolt.
I like Amelia Earhart, who
she rode around the world until she disappeared. You see,
88 years ago.
I'm gonna find her
today. As an aviation enthusiast, Amelia Earhart probably is the hottest woman in Laserbolt's world. You would imagine.
That's an excellent question. You know, yeah. It's an excellent question. Laserbolt
probably after her, like Tali Lintra from Last Jedi.
Fair, fair.
Who was just phenomenal. Yeah, no, but I'm with you, man. Like, it's funny because like you guys had Leia, obviously, and we had Padme. And the moment that got me, I genuinely think that the moment that made me be like, oh, girls are incredible, was third act of Attack of the Clones, when he says, you call this a diplomatic solution? And she says, no, I call it aggressive negotiations. I was like, what is happening? Like, it changed my brain chemistry in that moment.
And see, that's why when I get in arguments at bars over people who hate the prequels for my generation, I'm always like, you need to account for the perspectives of others. I now get to add that, because a lot of folks will cite the dialogue in Attack of Clones as something they don't like. And I understand it sometimes. Sure, I get it. Yeah, truly lovely, deeply. I wish there was no dialogue in that shot, and they just went out to the Petronaki Arena. But I can point to I know a youngster who knew what he was gonna search for in life based off the aggressive negotiations line.
And also, not for nothing, not to turn this into a Star Wars discussion totally, but like, that is the moment for me where it's like, oh yeah, you're Leia's mom. There it is.
There it is. Yeah, absolutely.
Like that you could feel it 100%. But yeah, no, that was huge. But then yeah, like realizing evil, definitely Lita, definitely Shigo from Kim Possible. Shout out Kim Possible fans. That was a little after your time, Ken. Shout out Sam from Danny Phantom.
Don't know.
Trying to think of other ones. Lord of the Rings, all the women are, I mean, there's not a lot of them, unfortunately, but they're all pretty good aligned in that.
There's a chance it's all the women and most of the elves.
Yeah, but Arwen was a huge game changer as well. In the early 2000s as a kid, just seeing her really like salvage the entire first act. Like, that good would have lost had she not shown up and saved the day. Yeah, and writes the course for everybody.
She's the anti-Lisa Murkowski.
You know, there's somebody we need to talk about, and you're about to experience a god tier segue. We need to talk about Madeline Stowe in 1992's The Last of the Mohicans. I yield the floor.
All right, I fell in love with Madeline Stowe last night. Last of the Mohicans, 1992's Last of the Mohicans, because there was one in the 1930s based on the book. Michael Mann, just the definition of sweeping epic. And now I do own the original DVD, and then I watched the director's cut last night, which does have some subtle changes. I think there's a little more comedy, which is weird to say, in the DVD version I have. A couple more beats. But this film meant everything to me in 1992. Yes, I'll say, Madeline Stowe was my favorite actor during that era because of this film. Absolutely fell in love head over heels for her, because I had more of a chance than Brian Ben, her husband. But also Daniel Day-Lewis. I actually did grow my hair in his style in 1995. He influenced me that way, but I love this film. I also love looking back on it now. Some of the stuff that's at play about the British, the French fighting over land that isn't theirs, but also how some of it, prior to these powers showing up, there was some things about it working. Could that have lasted? Could the white men have worked with the natives? I don't know, but there's evidence of in our actual history of there was some cohabitation going on, and then also the infighting between the different the tribes of the land, the Mohawk, the Huron, all that kind of stuff. Fascinating to see it play out in a way that I didn't even understand in 1992. The great Sachem scene where he's talking about darkness came when the white man came, but basically saying there's different tribes have decided to deal with it in different ways. Not unlike something we got in Star Wars when we have the conversations with the Tuskens. Right before Boba Fett puts the lizard in his nose, there's a similar conversation. So I think it's real powerful in that regard, and also just some of the best performances. I almost don't want to spoil. I think Addie said she hasn't seen it yet. I almost don't want to spoil it, but the last 10 minutes of that movie, you don't breathe, with some of the best music. Track 6 on the score if you got the CD. And Alden last night, I fell in love with it all over again.
It's incredible. You touched on so many of the great thematics there. The thing that I was focused on, also again, because we're nerds and we can't help ourselves, we talk about Obi-Wan Kenobi and how much we love that series. We are a pro Obi-Wan Kenobi friend group in general. And the stuff that you guys have so beautifully analyzed on Force Center about the cycle of violence and how people that want to be smarter than the stories sometimes watch that and like, well, if he knows that he's a problem, why didn't he just kill him right there? He had him dead to rights. He walks away. Good job, Obi-Wan. You walked away. Now we have to deal with him later. That's not the point. It's that he has to remove himself from this cycle. And when you look at you could call him a villain with Magua in Last of the Mohicans. It's like he is representing the cycle of violence. Everything that he's doing is a reaction. Everything that he's doing is a reaction. He's not just like the rogue native character who decided to be bad and work with the white man. He betrays all parties, because he also breaks deals with his French buddy. Because his French buddy was like, "Hey man, we can't be doing. I can't dishonor France.
I can't do that.
Exactly.
I can't do it.
I can't do it." And this guy it's sad what he became.
It's sad. Yes.
And then he finally arrives and he's like, have I proven myself? Like, can I be a part of this? And that big scene that you're talking about. And they're like, no, you're dark and twisted. And Hawkeye makes the point of like, look at what he became. And finally, when it comes time for the final confrontation, even his own men, because of the honor system that they have, like they don't interfere on his behalf. They let it be a 1v1 while Hawkeye has them both, dead to rights with double long rifles. The coolest.
That again, Daniel Day-Lewis actually primed and pumped and fired because he was good. Yeah, you're talking about the Hawkeye, Long Carabine, and that great moment of he would use the ways of the Yengeese and Francais traders, like one of my favorite little lines he has there. It's so true. It does tie. You could almost see Luthen Rail and Saw and Mon being in that conversation too.
He's incredible. Guys,
am I so bad?
You got to watch it. It's on Hulu. Yeah. It's a standard length
Prime.
Movie. The other thing too is that like it's Michael Mann. It's the 90s. It's the presentation. I'm not one of those like movies used to be better people, because there's plenty of stuff that I love from right now, and every era has its flavor. But there's something that's so special about opening text. 20th Century Fox presents a Michael Mann film. Daniel Day-Lewis, Madeline Stowe. Like, we don't do it like that anymore. And like that is so cool. It's so special. And like Daniel Day, you get to see Daniel Day with double rifles running up a mountain to avenge his brother. Like
mostly shirtless and pantless, by the way.
Yes. When they're in the waterfall and he's like, I will find you no matter how far. I will find you. You're like, I'd marry this guy. I get it. Like, this guy's amazing.
Absolutely. It's big, and it's not that they don't make that stuff. Dune is big, and we're still getting them. And this is even a comment on IP now versus originals. This was a cover movie as well. This was a reboot of a old movie and an older book, and it's a drastic change from it. There's a lot of Last Mohican purists who don't enjoy Michael Mann's vision of it.
There's like 5 novels. I've never read any of them that are like the something tales where
James
Hawkeye
Fenimore Cooper,
Daniel Poe. He has like a different name in each one, and like I want to find out what happens afterwards. Like I was thinking about it last night. It's like, well, in about 20 years, the
American Revolution. Well, what would Hawkeye do in the American Revolution? Where would he be? Oh, then in my head, I was like, oh, we should pitch a sequel. We should reboot the franchise and do a sequel.
Have you ever played any of the Assassin's Creed games?
I played the first one.
Okay, so the first one's okay. But the 2 is incredible, and 2 has a little spin-off trilogy. But the reason I bring it up is because 3 is probably the closest that you could ever get to feeling like this movie in games. Red Dead, obviously, if you just want to ride a horse and listen to great music, but the time eras don't match up, and there are different kinds of things. But Assassin's Creed 3, you play similarly to Hawkeye. You play a character who is half of indigenous heritage and half of white heritage, even though Hawkeye is white, but like raised by, but still similar vibes. Named Connor, and you're in colonial America, and you're throwing tomahawks and all that. Like it's a good vibe. But yeah, it's a great film. Everybody should watch it. It's beautiful music, beautiful vibes, classically romantic in the way that, like, this is gonna sound cheesy, but like we used to nuzzle more. You know what I mean? There used to be a lot of like neck nuzzling. There used to be a lot of like cuddling and not caring who else was in the room while you cuddled. Like they literally had this whole. I'm serious. I'm serious.
Did not have you going to that. That is, and you know what the thing is? You're absolutely right. There is a passionate love scene. Yeah, there's a passionate love scene that is mostly nuzzling. You're right. I didn't even think about it.
Nuzzling. There are literally there's that. Yes, Molly gets it. There are literally a whole cave full of people, and Hawkeye and Madeline Stowe walk over to the edge of the waterfall. So they're still like right there. Everyone's right there, and they have this scene. And because the nuzzling and the riz and the romance and the score and the water, because it's so palpable, it's like it doesn't even matter that there are other characters in the scene. Like time freezes so they can just have this moment.
And Madeline Stowe's Cora Monroe has that line, you know, when her and Hawkeye are talking earlier, their first real conversation, and she's like, on the contrary, it is more stirring to my blood than I could ever have imagined. It's just one of the greatest romantic lines. It is so dripping with everything, and it's just delivered so perfectly by Madeline Stowe. And also shout out to Jodie May, who was, I think, 16 in this movie, her first major role. Goes on to do many things, but for us, Maggie the Frog in Game of Thrones at the beginning of season 5, who, you know, without spoiling the ending for those who haven't seen it. And yeah, I brought up Alan Smithy's comment. Yes, Daniel Day-Lewis. Yes, Madeline Stowe. Wes Studi is next level in that film as an actor. He's next level. And Daniel Day-Lewis usually creates his own levels. Daniel Day-Lewis usually hacks out his own levels out of wood that he's chopped down. And Wes Studi was just mind-bogglingly good in them.
Guys, I can't stress to you how amazing it is that Daniel Day is no longer retired. We're getting a new Daniel Day-Lewis movie this year.
Right. Is this a sequel to Last Mohicans?
No, the next of the Mohicans. And also, the Last Mohicans third act, there's like a 12, maybe 15-minute period of silence, where there's not silence, but no dialogue. Like everything after Buddy burns at the stake to the ending monologue.
And we haven't talked about how I chose the problematic choices I made as a young man in terms of men to connect with in movies, where I had Hawkeye in front of me, very aspirational. And I chose Steve Wynington as Major Duncan Hayward. And he walked so Jorah Mormont could run for me. And I want to apologize publicly to all the women in my life from 1992 to present day.
You know what? That's very big of you. For those of you that have seen Pirates of the Caribbean, he's kind of the blueprint for James Norrington. The woman, the man that Keira Knightley does not choose. It's kind of like that.
Yeah,
Ken,
that's true.
You're a Hawkeye now. You're a Hawkeye.
I'm a Hawkeye now. Okay.
You're a real yearner. Real yearners unite.
I feel like I'm slightly more Russell Means as Chinchukuk. Like I feel that's me. I am the last of the movie talkers.
The last of the movie talkers. That'll be the name of the documentary that you keep threatening to make. There's some beautiful stuff too. Obviously, I'm not for me to say about what's good indigenous representation, but there's stuff in it of like they see a massacred farm, and Cora's like, well, we should give them good Christian burials, and Poe is like, well, no. And she's like so confused by it, and then he explains like, you have to think like they think. Like if we go and do that, they're going to be able to track us, and also blah 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 about what their people believe. And then he explains the stars and everything, and it's so, because it's hard to get a good romance in 2 hours. People think writing movies is easy. To get people from strangers to like love
nuzzling
full nuzzle. You want to get to full nuzzle in 2 hours? You better do some work.
No, I've read it. It has to happen in a couple scenes, if not a couple lines of dialogue. And when it's done bad, and it's easy to do it bad, it does lend itself to that conversation of, wow, this love story is shallow, or that you see it play out in movies, especially from the 90s rom-coms. What, in one scene they're in love, but that's kind of sometimes all you got when it's a movie and it's 2 hours.
Yeah.
But it works.
That's we're gonna give this 10 out of 10 schmoes. 10 out of 10. This is I don't even remember what their scale was.
Yeah, it was.
Shout out Mark Ellis.
Yeah, no, and I know you had seen it before when you had said that. Oh yeah, we definitely, it's positive, or at least we don't have it. It's not on our radar screen for anything in our generation. But I wasn't even suggesting you rewatch. I was like, okay, good, he's seen it. But when you text me back the opening crawl, I was like, we got him. So I looked around my room, looked at the squirrels. I was like, squirrels, we got him. Alden's in. He's in.
We got him. Yeah, it's excellent stuff. So that was a big watch from this week. That will also serve as our 4th of July watch, I guess, because it is an American adventure, a frontier type classic.
Well, the seeds of the revolution are there. They're through it.
Seeds of the revolution are there. I don't have 4th of July watches that I've planned for today. I know a lot of people do Jaws. Last year on this day, I did Top Gun Maverick. Last year on this day, I got so stoned. I was stoned to the bone. And I watched Top Gun Maverick, and I felt like I truly believed in this country. Maybe for the last time.
Must get stoned. Look at you.
Yeah. Look at you. I don't know what's on the agenda for today. Another quick thing, and Molly can attest to this. I texted Molly on Sunday around dinner time, and I was like, Molly, you got to check out K-pop Demon Hunters on Netflix. It's a new animated feature, and it's they're not burying the lead. It's K-pop Demon Hunters. That is what it's about. They are a girl pop group that kind of borrows from it's like a mixture of the Buffy mythology and sort of like it's not related to Buffy, but like it borrows the idea of like generational heroes are called upon to battle the forces of darkness and these things. But it creates a mythos where every generation has a trio of women, and it shows you like all these different eras. And it's these 3 girls now. It's set basically now. There's like social media and stuff, but it's them versus the forces of darkness. But it's also got all this great music in it. And like, I'm not a K-pop person. I just, not for dislike, I just don't know really any of it.
Yeah.
Right. And I'll tell you, I threw a bunch of those songs on my liked songs on Spotify after this. It was a great time, great characters. It was awesome. And I also, Molly says she's watching it again tomorrow night. It makes me very happy to hear that. I also have to give you credit, Molly. I have to give Molly some credit.
Give her some flowers.
Give Molly her flowers for this and this alone. Like, this is such a testament to her character as a human. Is that I said, I think you would like this. These are the reasons why. I think it's very Molly core. Check it out. She said, oh yeah, I'm gonna check it out. And then like 2.5 hours later, she texted me and was like, I just watched it. That was great. Amazing to somebody to just be like, yeah, wow, recommendation received, let me put it into action. And because she's better than me, because I take people's recommendations and I sit on that shit for months, sometimes months before I get around to it.
Decades.
Never for you. Sometimes in one ear out the other with you.
Woo.
You're like, oh yeah, Star Trek, yeah.
Ken, you gonna watch that? Yeah. Or I could watch Young Guns 2 again. Thank you.
How long did it take you to watch Ghostbusters? 25 years? something like that.
When the first Ghostbusters came out in '84, right?
It's like 84, I think.
I
Yeah.
watched it first in 2016. Yeah. Yeah.
That's math. That's math.
Do you think, Molly said, I'm watching again tomorrow night with some of my girlfriends. In my mind, picture Molly and some of her close friends on her couch. I picture Alex coming out of the kitchen with an apron on going, I made Jello Pops. And he just serves them all. And then he makes them some spritzers and goes back to his cave.
It's like Paul Rudd and I Love You Man when he comes out with like I have chocolate straws and like these like things that he made. Like I think Alex delivers hard, leaves, goes back to his cave, starts making a video about the Ordo Espectu or whatever. And then
Ordo Espectu.
And then all the other women are like, he's the best. You're so lucky. Oh, Molly. Because in my head, these are all single women, of course, for the joke.
Sure.
Not to. Sure. In reality, these could all be people with successful marriages, but that's just not as funny as what we're creating here. So that's what I.
In Afra episode or issue 1, the Ordo Espectu.
Yeah.
Not far off. We got some questions here. This is what I needed today. I needed to yell about the big beautiful bill, the people that believe in it, and then I also needed to talk about Madeline Stowe.
If you're tuning in now, do not confuse this love of Madeline Stowe and K-pop demon hunters for us not being depressed.
But here's the thing. I've said this to some people in text, and I really truly mean it, even though it does seem trite, and I understand that. But joy is part of the revolution. Yes. I will go to that all the time. I think now more than ever, share your podcast. Tell people what you wrote. If I got a comedy show tonight, I'm going to be at Flappers. Come on out. Like, this is what we're fighting for. Everyone to have the right to these kind of things. And if we give them up, and we should still fight, it's that thing I've mentioned before that I think was a Dan Savage said about the queer community in the 80s. We protested in the morning, we mourned our deaths in the afternoon, and we danced at night because that's what we were fighting to get to. I do believe it. So as silly as this is the laughter we got here and making fun of Alex Damon and his Jello Pops, it's part of the fight. So everyone make fun of Alex Damon and his Jello Pops.
I think about Alex Damon being the best trophy husband there ever was as an act of resistance. No, last night I was telling you off air some spoilers for this book. I will not spoil it on air, of course. But I finished. I've been like 1.5, maybe 2 books behind on High Republic for the last few months, and I finally am just pedal to the metal, finishing now because Trials is out, and I'm still not spoiled on it, and I don't want to be spoiled on it. So I finished Into the Light last night. I'm halfway through Valiant Vow, and then I'll finish with Trials. The ending of Into the Light has something that not only made me cry, but it also has something that really made me smile. And that was young Padawan, get ready for a great Star Wars name, Amadeo Azazo, who tells Reith Silas that he finally realizes that he felt like maybe he couldn't enjoy partying with the Wookiees at the end of this adventure. And he was like, I felt weird about it at first. And then I realized that just because there's so much tragedy and awfulness out there, paraphrasing, it doesn't mean that we can't make room for joy. We have to have room for both. And it's like, yeah, he's right. Like you have yes. And that's present in all stories. Like there's always laughter. There's always, yes, the world might end, but Pippin and Mary do still need to ask about second breakfast. We still need to have a laugh about that. You need to eat. It's funny. Yeah. You're allowed to think it's funny. You know this being a comic. Like clubs don't close because a fascist won or because of fires or because of anything else. Like it might take a few nights, but like it's people's livelihood. It's part of what we do. It's part of culture. Like you still have to.
A smaller scale example of it, but I think you can spin it out and apply it to what we're talking about here is advice I once got as a young writer about you have to write the other side of the page, meaning you've got to go live, man. You can't just sit in your room writing. You've got to write about life. We are fighting for life. And so it's hard, it's difficult. And that's one of the things we come together for, to have these laughs, to get serious, to get mad at Lisa Murkowski, to yell at Steve Scalise, but also to remember what we're here for. As Alan Smithy says, the world's ending. Smoke some pipe weed, old Toby.
Look, You ain't lying, Alan Smithy. You ain't lying.
Alan Smithy has this comment going back to some more serious stuff. I work for UCLA, and the UC just announced that under Trump pressure, UC says student governments are banned from boycotting Israel. And maybe as an institution, they have the right to make some kind of decisions. I get that maybe on an intellectual level, but this is the kind of stuff that I think you need to ask the people that support this man. You know, is this part of it, right?
Yeah.
And
why would UCLA, like, why was all this complying in advance? We saw this as well in Pennsylvania. You know, stripping a trans athlete of all of her medals and distinctions, and we're doing that because why? Like, do you think that there's any amount of appeasing him that is going to protect you? I look at Columbia as the case study for this. Columbia University cracked down on the peaceful pro-Palestine protesters for weeks on end, cracking skulls, destroying encampments, like all this stuff that was happening. They acted like it was a war zone when it wasn't. All of this stuff happened only for then the Trump administration to try to threaten their accreditation anyway. Anyway, they did it anyway. There's no, this is somebody who takes because he enjoys taking. There's no amount of bargaining with him that is going to like make this work. You know, this is not, again, to once again dip into our fantasy metaphor. It's not, you can't just be like, oh, I'll pay you triple. Like, there's nothing. There's nothing. You're going to the pit. There's nothing. Like, people don't understand that. And these schools, they're destroying the institutions of higher education. I said this to my mother the other day. We were talking about this, and I was like, because she was talking about my nephews and like, you know, because my oldest nephew just turned 15. And so my mom's like, oh, it's only 3 years before he has to get out there and like, you know, start thinking about what he's going to do and everything. And I was like, yeah, I mean, he's entering a different world. The Ivy League as it was does not exist. You know, the respect for a lot of these schools does not exist. The safety that used to exist at a lot of these schools does not exist. The free thought that used to be at a lot of these schools does not exist. It's crazy. Unless, of course, you're a right winger. You know, that was the whole thing here in Florida a few years ago was UF had Richard Spencer. This was like during Trump won. I said a few years ago. I guess it's more like, you know, 7-8 years ago at this point. And it was like the students are protesting, and it's like, yeah, because he's a Nazi, because you have a Nazi in Gainesville, Florida. That's why he's being protested. So that shall be protected, but you can't criticize what's happening again in Tel Aviv. But you know, I guess we'll get more on this when Gavin has Netanyahu on his podcast. That's when we'll get answers. They'll have Fetterman first to be like, "What's wrong with you?" And then the second thing will be getting Netanyahu on. That's upcoming. Brought to you by Audible.
Big get, brought to you by Audible. I want to bring this one up. Change of tone because it's just about the time. So David Taylor 30 minutes ago said, "Hey, less than 30 minutes to Oasis hit the stage in Cardiff. How we feeling, Ken?" So Oasis is back. One of my favorite bands of all time. As problematic as they could be. Noel's not. I don't always agree with Noel. I actually agree with Liam more. Liam's more progressive than Noel. I'd say that.
Liam is also the funniest man on social media.
He is great, and Noel's pretty funny too. People always say, "How could you like them? They're kind of assholes." I'm like, yeah, because I'm not that, and so I look at the cross and be like, man, sometimes I wish I could be them. But love their music, love them. Yeah, man, I am nervous as a lifelong Oasis fan. Having them come back was cool, but now here we are, and I want this to work. I'm not going to get a chance to see them in this run. They're coming out to LA at some point, but it's just not going to happen for me. So I want this to work. I want new music. I want a new album. I want it to feel like 1995 again, not in terms of nostalgia, but just in terms of what the band can do. Punch you right in the mouth with some great pub rock. So I'm excited. I'm curious and a little nervous.
Yeah, I actually just had Nikki texted me and said the set list watch is going to be real because I had sent him the same update, and it's like, yeah, like this is what are they feeling? What do they want to go back to? What do they want to put in? Are they in a let's give them the hits mood, or are they in a here's what we wish we had been playing all along mood? Here's stuff you didn't appreciate enough, and now we're going to give it to you. Yeah,
like they're just going to be like round our way, and that's all they. And stay young. They're just going to do all the lesser B-sides, which I would love.
Stay Young was just featured in The Bear season 4, and it's used so well.
Young
Yeah,
and invincible.
Great
Know
track.
just what we are. Come
Also
what
in
may. All right.
we don't have that cleared, Ken. We don't have that cleared. You better be careful, because you sound just like them, and so we're gonna get flagged.
Yes, just like me.
Also, I wanted to say in music news, right here on Ozzy's Instagram, everybody go to Ozzy Osbourne's Instagram, is a photo that includes just an insane group of old rockers, and it's Ozzy's last show, I believe, tomorrow. It is the last performance of Black Sabbath and the last performance of Ozzy Osbourne as one event, and the whole act is this. This is everybody that's on the lineup. I'm about to rattle them off. It's called Back to the Beginning. It's in Birmingham, and where they started out, where Sabbath started out. And so you've got Metallica, Guns N' Roses, Slayer, Tool, Soundgarden, Pantera, Gojira, Hailstorm, Alice in Chains, Lamb of God, Anthrax, Mastodon, Rival Sons, The Boys from Illinois, which is Billy Corgan, Adam Jones, and Tom Morello. And then a super group that is Steven Tyler, Fred Durst, Jonathan Davis, David Draymond, Tobias Forge, Whitfield Crane, Sammy Hagar, Tom Morello, Nuno Betancourt, Vernon Reed, Rudo Sarzo, Adam Wakeman, and Chad Smith. So this is a wild group of people that came together for Ozzy's last thing. Ozzy, because of advanced Parkinson's, unfortunately can't walk well, if at all, anymore. He's got a cane, but he's got a black throne. He can still sing. And so they're going to do this epic last thing. And they posted a group photo on his Instagram that was just like so heartening to see. It almost made me like emotional, because you think about like the passage of time and how things that were always there are not going to be there anymore, and all that heady stuff. But
like
it's cool to have very similar, of course, that, you know, by the end of movie talk, Ken couldn't walk anymore. They were wheeling him on set.
I like Star Wars. Give me that Denny's menu.
No, it should not have been Akbar. It was fine the way it was. And I agree.
Akbar did not deserve a funeral.
But yeah, so I just wanted to give that a shout out. We have Oasis reuniting while Ozzy's on the way out. Big music weekend. I'm very curious about what Oasis will deliver. Like we said, a note about Liam being funny, though. Green Day did a show. I don't know if you saw this. It went viral, where they invited somebody up on stage, as they've done a few times, and gave him an acoustic guitar because he said he could play. What song was he supposed to play?
Is it Good Riddance?
Good Riddance. I think it was supposed to play Good Riddance. And he said he could play it, and then he couldn't. Or like, I don't know if he couldn't play it at all, or like what was going on. But he started playing Wonderwall. And then Green Day kicked him off stage, and they were like, no, get off. So he goes back to the crowd, and somebody shared it, and Liam responded to the video and wrote, best song of the night. Guy's funny, man. Guy's funny.
Best. He's the best.
Just an all-time asshole. Like Sarah Sherman from SNL talked about how when they played them this past season, and Liam hated it and responded and said that it was shit. Yeah. She was asked like how she felt about that, and she's like, I mean, it's more of an honor to be hated on by Liam than it is to be loved. Had he liked it, there would have been something wrong.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And to address as we get on out of here, or start to get on out of here, Addie's question up top. How do we lose the art of the good campy movie? Why do we make fun movies like Independence Day anymore? There were some good comments up top about some thoughts as to why. I'll just say the obvious answer: we can't tell jokes anymore. I'm kidding. That's not it. What do you think as a youngin', Alden? Where are Independence Days that aren't Independence Day 2?
I genuinely feel in my soul that it is because we have a big problem with sincerity now, and with ththings that are like a little bit saccharine, a little bit over the top. Like, I'm a huge fan of The Life of Chuck that came out this year. Well, it premiered last year, but got a release this year. And the new Mike Flanagan with Tom Hiddleston, Mark Hamill's in it. And that feels like a 1990s family film in so many ways. It's just unabashedly sentimental. It has almost like a Forrest Gumpy tone of like, look at how beautiful life is. And yes, it's sad, but it's also so beautiful. And don't you just want to feel good right now for these 90 minutes? Like, and I think now that gets really pushed up against, even with things that aren't cheesy. So the way that you move from one to the other in my mind is this. If we're in a time now where like Lin-Manuel Miranda is considered cringe by a lot of people, or when like, or you go a little bit cheesier than him and you go to like Taika Waititi is considered cringe by a lot of people now, and people have turned on creators like that, then what Addy is bringing up is a thing that is one bridge even further, which is like stuff we know is dumb. And like stuff we know is dumb is a hard sell. Like stuff that we think is not dumb at all gets dogged on for being simple and having nothing to say, and action figures being smashed together. And so it's like, if Mandalorian can move me to tears, or if Dial of Destiny can move me to tears, and I think there's a lot of stuff going on there, if we take it even dumber than that, the reaction is proportional, right? So it's like, you're not like, Superman comes out this week, and you've seen it and I haven't, and the early rumble is that it's a weird one, guys. It's a weird one. And it is very over the top, and it's got some goofiness to it. And it's like, there are going to be people that are going to, how could it? And then I already know that people like me, regardless of how I feel about it, there's going to be the, well, what did you expect? It's Superman. And so it's like, you go to something like Independence Day, if they made one of those right now, beat for beat, I would fear for it a little bit, because there's a standard of everything has to like be a 10 out of 10 now. It's either absolute dog shit or absolute cinema. And that binary is really, really fucking bad. And so I think that's why you can't get into it. Now, there's a lot of real reasons too. The death of the DVD market, all the real reasons why tentpole has to be the way. We have to get 10 movies out of it, But we saw that where it's like, people only have a tolerance for like one right now. One can squeak by every now and then. We gave them Thor Ragnarok, and then we gave them more of what they said they liked about Ragnarok, and amped it up a bit, and then they were like, nope, we didn't say we wanted that much. So it's very hard right now.
That makes a ton of sense. I really love what you're saying, and yeah, that word cringe. I guess it could have different definitions, different people. And let's, I'll acknowledge too that, with what a lot of going on in not just the world now, but maybe the world last 10 years, it might be harder to believe in the saccharine, right? You know what I mean? But that's almost a separate conversation from what some of the stuff you brought up. But that's a factor too, which I acknowledge completely. But that's why I do have a lot of confidence in Superman, but also a little bit of worry for Superman when it hits the public. Because, as I told you on air, I think, and off air, as best I can, I don't even know or care about the embargoes at this point. No plot details. It's such a heartfelt movie. It's heartfelt. And I worry about heartfelt in this time. Not for those who have legitimate concerns of the world and want to change, but like we talked about earlier, I do think you need joy. I do think you need happiness. I also do think you need some nuzzling. And I think this movie has some nuzzling, and it has some humor, and it's irreverent, and there's times it touches into satire, which most people aren't going to get. But above all, it is goddamn heartfelt, and I worry about what that will play, how that will play when it reaches the public.
Yeah, it's it's something that we've gotten like really defensive of about things that we love, and it's rough. And Joseph Scrimshaw on Force Center has pointed out in the past. I wish I could tell you guys where he said it. There's a lot of Force Center, y'all. I don't know if you're aware of that, Ken. Y'all, you've done a lot of Force Center. And Joseph points out, I have one
external hard drive that requires its own power source with all of our episodes on it.
There's too many good takes on it. That's what it is. But Joseph is right that he pointed out, look at 2016, the Rogue One moment combined with the Trumpian moment led in a lot of ways to the crucifixion of La La Land. Yes. When La La Land started doing the festival rounds and came out, everyone heralded that movie as a masterpiece. People fucking loved La La Land. Then it existed, won a few too many awards for people's liking. It sat there. Then we got really rightfully angry as a society. And then it was, look at this cheesy piece of shit. Look at this overhyped fucking loser, sad boy wannabe movie. Like they turned on a dime on that movie. And I think a lot of they say the same thing they did with Hamilton, where it's like, and yeah, like is Hamilton a little bit of like the how do I word this? I guess like Jared from the Nerd Academy rightfully uses the word Pollyanna a little bit to describe it, and I think that's true. But it's like that was like, wow, look at this thing that just saved Broadway, and then it became bigger than God, and then it was like, look at this overhyped piece of shit, blah blah blah. Insert same things that happened, and we saw that too with like Force Awakens, where it's like everybody loved you can act like you didn't, now. This is what you say about Attack of the Clones, right? You can act like you didn't cheer for Yoda, but I know you did. It's like I was there, man. I saw Force Awakens a lot. And every single screening was electric. But it wasn't until it existed for a while that everyone was like, I mean, it's kind of derivative. It's kind of a rehash. Everybody thinks that they're like chasing the dragon of like original. I want to be riveted. I want everything, and I want it to be a 10 out of 10, and I want it to be perfect. That an Independence Day now, Addie, like, I think you and I would probably agree, and everybody would probably agree. There are Independence Days now. They're all over Netflix. They're all over Prime. They're all over Paramount. There's an Independence Day every goddamn weekend with the streaming movies that no one ever hears of. It's just like the saturation too is a big problem, and now we just look at that as streaming corporate IP slop. And it's like, like there's a movie. I'm not saying this movie is like Independence Day or that it's good or whatever, but like there's a movie that my stepdad has watched probably 100 times. It is a peak stepdad movie, and it's called The Tomorrow War with Chris Pratt, and like it's like got like a time travel element to it, and like these alien creatures. And it came out a few years ago, and like had this movie dropped in theaters in like '97, this movie would have done numbers. This movie would have been everywhere. I'm convinced, had it been Will Smith instead of Chris Pratt, right? Like at that time, or had it been, I don't know, who are we putting in everything? Brendan Fraser. Oh boy, my God. Had it been Brendan Fraser, it would have been everywhere. And we've arrived at this place now. We just don't have it. We just don't have the space for that. Like I talked to Joseph on Octo Radio once about comedy, especially in Star Wars, and where we're at with like Marvel humor, quote, which I hate to break it to y'all, George and Spielberg kind of invented. Marvel, Feige took it from them, and then they got it back in a lot of ways in these brands. And we had a long conversation about, is this a fertile time or fertile? Is it fertile? Fertile
ground?
Either way. Like, is this fertile ground right now for these things, for cheese and everything? And like, it ain't looking good. I hope that we swing back around. And I think we are kind of like the signs are there. That the kids yearn for cheese. We are yearning for a good nuzzle. We're yearning for an animal sidekick. We're yearning for just joy. I don't know. It's hard to track, but it's a great question. It's a really good question. Yeah, Alan Smithy brings up Thunderbolts here. I was thinking about it just now. Yeah, like Thunderbolts has some cheesy fun in it, but Thunderbolts also is the, hey, aren't we all depressed? The movie. Like that is really what that is. And I think it hit the right time. I'm going to be I'm not a box office person. Like I could honestly, I could give a fuck if any of the movies that I love succeed or bomb, because they're for me. And like, I'll get to have them, But I am going to be somewhat curious for this reason, how Superman and Fantastic Four do. Does Superman have 2 hot weeks and Fantastic Four takes the wind out of its sails? Or does Fantastic Four debut and can't topple Supes? Or do they kind of Barbenheimer and everyone starts watching both? Like, I don't know. I'll be curious to see what happens.
It might all rest on the collar and cape of crypto. That's my final movie talk analysis.
Yeah, you honestly are probably right.
On crypto,
and not in the annoying way. We're talking Crypto the Super Dog, everybody.
Crypto the Super Dog. Great stuff. You're much more plugged in the movie scene than I am these days, and I really love and get everything you're saying there. So Yeah, and Addy, to answer your question, you should swap out Forrest Gump tonight with The Last Mohicans. That should end your July 4th marathon. Watch ID4 because that's a goddamn good film. That's a goddamn good film.
Fun, man.
Yeah,
great speech.
Great speech.
I love a movie speech. That might be one of the best movie speeches, to be honest. That's great. Obviously, Braveheart's great. What's the Pacino speech? What is that movie from? Is it Any Given Sunday? Is that what it is?
Oh, or are you talking about She's Got a Great Ass? Like, which one are you talking about?
Not that one. Yeah, the football one. The football. Yeah,
Any Given Sunday.
Any Given Sunday. That's a good speech. But yeah, no, She's Got a Great Ass. Everything he says in Heat is incredible. Every single thing he says in Heat is incredible.
So there you go. Yeah, I have to rewatch that too. I might have to go on a Michael Mann run. I think we did it. We did it. We did it. We solved.
Any last minute question? Oh, we got a super chat from Alan Smithy here.
Oh, thank you, Alan. Thanks for the show. Have a happy shark free. We're both reading it in Reader's Theater form here.
We're both have a happy shark. We were literally in perfect sync over how. You know what that tells you? That's honestly scary. That tells you that we've both seen too much copy in our lives and careers.
Yeah,
that's what that tells you. That we both have seen and read way too much copy.
This is why I don't succeed, because I really go, thanks for the show and have a happy shark-free 4th of July. Where now the style should be, thanks for the show, have a happy shark-free 4th of July. That's what people want, but I don't have that in me. So thank you.
And you have to cut that sentence up into about 10 edits, 10 jump cuts.
Welcome to 4. Yeah.
So let me tell you about my 4th of July. When did this will be my last little thing. When did these companies get the money to like put those fucking ads in front of every YouTube video? Have you noticed that? Like all YouTube ads now are like front facing, like low budget, like what is happening?
It's the style, and a lot of them are actors cast, but yeah, that is, and I understand it, right? Because I joke, but my radio broadcasting skill set and intuitions and preferences, they don't translate because of kind of what you're talking about. That's from an insincere past, and it might be viewed as cringe, or it might be viewed as too good. Not that I'm saying I'm the greatest, but you know what I mean. Like I would go to some of these YouTube channels in the last gasp of my digital media career, and they did not want. They were really actually upset at me going, hi, everybody, welcome to New Rockstars. Here we are on the show today. They were just like, we just want to hang out. We want to hang out. Yeah. And I think that's why advertising is going to reflect that. Breaking news.
Last update. Oh, I have an Oasis update too. Okay. Cool. Perfect.
No previous Oasis drummer lineup. Thank you, Vermont Mike, fellow Oasis fan.
Nikki says they did a pre-show open of Fucking in the Bushes and then actually opened with Hello.
Hello, the trivia of Fucking in the Bushes. You know what that is? What's
the trivia?
That is the first ever entrance music for me in pro wrestling.
That is also Nigel McGuinness's entrance music in wrestling.
There you go.
You're in good company.
There you go. All right. Here we go. Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging with us on this holiday for most of you, whether you're celebrating or whether you just kind of or whether you're movie 2 in a movie marathon like Addy. We appreciate you all being here. Go have a hot dog. Do what you want to do. I mean that from the bottom of my sincere heart, Alden. I'm not being smooth broadcaster guy. I really appreciate y'all being here. Like the video. Leave a comment if you're watching later. Tell your friends about the fun we do over here.
My final thought would be, if it is within your power to get your nuzzle on this weekend, I highly encourage you to get your nuzzle on right here, right there. Just a little nuzzle. The height difference is kind of cute.
Bring back the nuzzle. Bring back the nuzzle. Aqua's second song. There we go. We'll see you next time. All right, everybody. Bye.